Hey, what's up, boxers? This is Zack with Buildbox. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a swipe puzzle game with Buildbox, and it's going to look something kind of like this. So we're going to have our basic character here set up. There's going to be a little portal that you want to get to and an enemy you want to avoid. So it's going to just have swipe controls, and it's going to be a swipe puzzle where you have to swipe in the right order so you can get to the portal and complete the game. And I'm going to show you how you can make a series of these things where you just hit next and then you go to your next swipe puzzle, okay? And so it's really easy to do with Buildbox. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of preview real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and start completely fresh with this document. So I'm going to exit out of Buildbox right now. I'll go ahead and not going to worry about, I guess I'll save the changes that I made. And I'm going to go ahead and open up Buildbox right now, nice and fresh. And we are going to start this BB doc from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create New. And then I'm going to choose the avoidance template. Any of these templates will work, but avoidance template is a nice one to start off with. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create. Okay, now there's quite a few things that we need to change to get this set up correctly. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this down here. I'm going to make this be a border, and then I'm going to make it be a platform instead of an enemy. With avoidance, it's got all the walls are enemies, so they destroy the character, and we don't really want that. We want them to just be regular platforms. It's going to kind of serve as kind of like the game frame in a way. So I'm going to go ahead and make all of these walls on the side. I'm going to make them platforms, and so they're not going to destroy the character. Okay, so I'm going to stretch this out right across, and you know what, I need to make this go up a little bit because I want to use the entire bit of the screen. You might be able to see this right here. You see this light, very gray light line right there? That is the actual size of the phone screen, so that's how much screen real estate that you're playing with. So I'm going to stretch this up so that we get the whole screen. Okay, so I'm going to stretch up this wall here as well. I'm going to make sure that this wall is set to a platform so it's not going to destroy the character. And then I'm going to stretch this up and make this a platform as well. Okay, cool. So looks like we've got the basic setup there in the middle, and I'm going to go ahead and change some of the game settings here. So we don't want any forced movement. So I'm going to go down here to force movement and make it all 0. Make sure there's no gravity on here, so that's good too. So now I'm going to go into my world UI, and I'm going to get rid of the joystick controls because that's for avoidance and we don't really need that. And then I'm also going to get rid of touch to move as well. Now I'm going to go over here to the characters menu. I'm going to grab swipe control, and I'm going to drag this out so it's across the entire screen so you can swipe any which way on the screen. And I'll leave the game over event observer just how it is. Okay, great. So we've got the swipe controls there. Now we need to set up the swipe controls so that the character will do what we want when we swipe. So I'm going to go over here to characters. I'm going to select the character, and it's going to open up this menu over here on the right, and I'm going to scroll all the way down. I'm going to get rid of direct movement and force movement. I'm going to change the max speed from the X and the Y to 0 and 0. And then I'm going to add a component here. I'm going to add an advanced move. All right, and I'm going to make this be swipe up. Okay, and this is, or actually, you know what, I'm just going to call it up. That's fine. And then I'm going to make this go 100 in the Y direction, so it's going to just go straight up and it's going to go really fast. And then I'm going to make sure that the mathematical operation is replace, and then I'm going to set it to swipe top. Okay, great, that looks good. And the other thing I really want is I want to make sure that we go 0 in the X direction, so no swaying left to right. All right, so you got to put 0 in the X direction. So I'll go ahead and I'll add more components. I'm going to make this one just be down, and then I'm going to change this to be negative 100 in the Y direction, so it's going to go downwards and it's going to go fast. And then I'm going to change the event to swipe bottom. And then I'm going to make sure that the linear velocity in the X direction is also 0, and that looks good. Okay, great. Next, I need to add an advanced move for the swipe left and swipe right. So, oops, I'm changing the swipe down. I need to scroll down. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to change this to left. And then I'm gonna make it go. Let's see here. You're looking at the screen right now, so I need it to go this way. So I need it to go negative 100 in the x direction and 0 in the y. We don't want it going up or down at all. We're gonna make sure the mathematical operation is replace. We're gonna call this swipe left, and we should be good. Okay. One more advanced move. We're gonna make this one be right, and we're going to make sure that this goes 100 in the x direction, just like in the x and y on a graph, and make it be 0 in the y direction, and change this to swipe right controls. And then that's a tongue twister. Okay, so let's look this over. Swipe right is 100 in the y direction, or 100 in the x direction. Good. Swipe left, negative in the 100 in the x direction. Swipe bottom, negative 100 in the y direction. Swipe top, 100 positive in the y direction. Okay, great. Now the next thing I want to do is, this character looks a little bit big, so I'm going to zoom in over here. I'm going to shrink this down to 0.5 and 0.5, make it real nice and tiny. Actually, let's make it 0.6 and 0.6, a little bit bigger. Okay. Great. I'm going to extend the game frame. No, the game frame looks good. Let's go ahead and make all the bars be gray. We'll see that later. We can do that later. Also, I'm going to bring this down a little bit because I kind of went a little bit overboard when I was dragging up. Okay, that's cool. That's all we really want to play with. And I'll bring this down as well because we don't need it. Okay, then I'm going to go to 1. And I'm going to get rid of this and this because that's going to bleed into the next scene. And let's just take a quick gander at what we've got so far. I'm going to shrink this down so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, great. So I should be able to just swipe left and right. Now the one thing you can do is, if it's going up, you can swipe left or right really fast. Okay, so you can catch it. And then the game frame looks okay. I might raise this bottom up a little bit, so it evens it out a little bit. Okay, great. So I will stretch this up just a little bit. I'm a little bit of a stickler, make that nice and neat. Okay, now let's go ahead and start making our design for this little game, this little puzzle. Okay, so I'm going to make a little block here, something like this, and we'll start the character off in the corner and make him go one direction, downwards. And then let's go ahead and set up a winner here. So I'm going to hit S on my keyboard and just make a copy of that, and that's a platform. It's not going to defeat the character. We'll make it so that this is the winner section right here, and I'm going to put a portal right in here, and then I'm going to hit D on my keyboard. I'm going to grab it and hit Shift so I can go straight left and right. That's the nice part about hitting Shift. You can go straight left and right. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to move downwards to the right, go up, then over, then down, and complete the level. Okay? So let's go ahead and signify a little portal for the game 1. To signify the game has been, that the player has won the game. Okay, so I'm going to use a little particle emitter, and let's go ahead and change the color of the particle emitter right now. Let's experiment with this. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make the color be blue. Let's try that, like a nice, kind of a darker blue. Not too saturated, not too crazy. And then I'm going to change the next color to white. And I'm going to probably change the opacity, bring it way down so that you can barely see it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the angle here. Now it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this down here to the corner so you can see a little bit better. Okay, great. You guys can all see that now. So I'm going to make the angle be 0 and have a randomizer of 360. So it's going to just go in any direction in a circle. It's going to go every which way. I'm going to make the speed be about 200, make it the speed be fast, but the radial acceleration I'm going to make it like negative 900. And so what it's going to do, it's going to go out and come in just a little bit, just enough, and then I'll make the end size be 5 so it'll taper down, and then I'll change the life to be about 1 with a randomizer of 0.25. Okay, that looks all right. That's a pretty good looking portal, I'd say. We'll check that out in a little bit. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that there is a menu jump here, so that we can either send the player to another world, or we can send the player to a win UI. And that's actually what we're going to do. We're going to make this win game. So I'm going to put win game up here for the title. And then I'm going to create a win game UI, win game user interface. So I'm going to select the game over UI, just hit S on my keyboard, and I'm going to rename this win game UI. Cool. All right. Now I'm going to hook up WinGame to my WinGame UI, and let's go ahead and fix this up a little bit. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a label here, and I'm going to just call it, I'm going to name it, or I'm going to put the text in and say WinGame, or you won. That's better. You won. Okay. That looks good. And then I'm going to leave the font as a default font just because it's a just an example here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this be next game, or just say next probably. So I'll just do next. Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add in a purchase button underneath. Okay, and you'll see why here in a second. So I'm going to put in purchase button underneath, but there's a couple more things I need to do to get this purchase button working the way we want it to. So I'm going to go back to my mind map real quick and go back to my world, and I'm going to add in some checkpoints, and so that I can go from scene to scene or from world to world. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this random white ball that I've got here. It's very similar to the main character that we've got. I'm going to make this an action type. And I'll go ahead and I'll delete this right now. I'll delete that. And I'll call this action type next checkpoint. Next checkpoint. Okay, great. And I'll set the action type to next checkpoint as well. So that's how it's going to work in the game. And then if I have next checkpoint, I'm going to need a set checkpoint. So I'm going to bring in one more image. It does not matter what the image looks like. And I've got a nice orange spike here that I've used plenty of times before. That's always fun. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and I'm going to call this set checkpoint. Okay, set checkpoint. All right. Now there's a couple more things I'm going to do here before, or you know what, actually I'm going to go back to the mind map. I can go ahead and go to my win game here, and I can hook up my purchase button, and now you can see here that it says action selection next checkpoint. So when you hit that button, it's going to go take you to the next checkpoint, or what it's going to do actually is it's going to give you the next checkpoint action, and that is going to send you to the next checkpoint in the next puzzle. All right, and then you got to make sure you are using buy and use, and you want the purchase method to be free. Okay, second they click it, they get it for free, they go to the next world. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and make this world a little bit more interesting. Let's bring in an enemy, because right now it's a little bit of a puzzle, but it's really not that challenging. So I'm going to make this an enemy. I'm going to shrink this down quite a bit. Let's see if 0.5 and 0.5 works. You know, that's fine. I'm going to go with 0.3 and 0.3 instead. Yeah, okay, great. I'm going to rotate it -90 degrees. Oh, oops, not -900, -90. And then I'm going to make this go back and forth here. Okay, so that way it's a little bit of an obstacle to avoid. Now we've got this destroying the character. It's set as an enemy, so we're good there. Now let's bring in a transform for this so that we can send the, and you can use a transform or you can use a path. Is another way of doing this. So maybe I'll show you another way later with using the path. You achieve the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that when it hits this transform, the affected asset is an enemy, and I'm going to change the linear velocity to, let's make it 35 in the Y direction, and then let's rotate it back around rotate it negative 90. I'm sorry, negative 90, so that it starts going, for you, it's going to start going this direction, which is, I have to get used to. It's the opposite on camera. Okay, and so it's a linear velocity, 0 and 35. Okay, great. And then I think we're going to make this be replace is the affected operation. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and select that transform. I'm going to hit W on my keyboard, and I'm going to make a copy of it, which is really nice because it saves all of your settings. So it's really not that hard to just switch this around. I'm just going to make this go be 90 degrees instead. So it's going to flip around and start hitting the other direction. Okay, now let's make sure that this is working correctly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit play just to test this out. Okay, I'm going to shrink this down so you can see it a little bit better. Oh, and I forgot to give it an initial linear velocity. So it needs to start off by going in the y direction 35. Okay, with a linear velocity of 35 in the y direction. Now let's check this out. So it's going to hit the transform and go the other direction, and it's going to kind of ping pong, okay, which is very similar to how a path would work. And I hope you guys can all see that. Okay, great. So we're going to just try to get to this. Oh, okay. So I need to get to make sure that the menu jump is nice and small here, so that we're not hitting it. Okay, great. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to go to my first scene here. I'm going to make another puzzle, actually. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to select all of this stuff that I've made in the first, in this start scene, and I'm going to unselect. I'm going to hit Command on my keyboard, and then I'm going to unselect the character because you can't copy the character into another scene. So I'm going to hit Command C on my keyboard, or Control C for you Windows users out there, and then I'm going to hit Command V or Control V and paste it all into the next scene. All right, now I need to stretch this up just a little bit, so we're good to go there. All right, and then what I'll do is I'll add in one more set of enemies. So I'll select these 4 things, I'll hit Command, and so I've just got another set of these guys, and I'll make it go something like this. Make it a little bit harder for the player. So it'll go back and forth like this now. Okay, great. So it's a little bit more challenging now. Now to send the player from the start scene into the first scene, once we reward them with the next checkpoint, there has to be a set checkpoint that is in the first scene so that it can go to the next checkpoint that is set there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my actions. I'm going to bring in a set checkpoint. I'm going to shrink this down, and I'm going to put this right here underneath where I want the character to start. And I'm going to turn the opacity down to 0 so it's invisible so nobody can see it. Now I'm going to make sure that the set checkpoint, the action type, is set to set checkpoint right here on in the game. And so now, once you're given the next checkpoint, you should go to the where the set checkpoint is in the first scene. And another thing that is really important that helps out with this is you want to go to Edit, and you want to go to Align Scenes. So what it's going to do, and this is especially good if you have a lot of scenes, because it's going to look at the very next scene and it's going to find where that checkpoint is, and it's going to send the player there. So let's go ahead and test this out now and see what we've got. So we've got this little character going up, swipe down, and let's make sure you guys can see it all. I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit so you can see it better. Wait for the enemy to get out of the way. Great. And so you go into the portal and you won that puzzle. Then you hit the next button, and that's going to reward the player the next checkpoint, and so it's going to send the player to the next puzzle. Okay, you see how that works? And then you have a little bit more of a challenging puzzle because you've got 2 enemies, and you can set this up however you like, and it's really, really simple. So just make sure you follow the instructions on the swipe controls and also the checkpoints, because I'd say that's the trickiest part. Everything else is pretty easy. Okay, well, I hope you thought this was cool. This is kind of a cool swipe puzzle that you might find in like a Legend of Zelda game, like on the icy floors where you have to do things a certain way to get like a door key or a chest key or something like that. So it's kind of like the old Legend of Zelda, like the classic ones that you'd play on like different Game Boys and stuff. Okay, so I hope you thought this video was useful. If you want to see more videos like this, then please like this video and subscribe to our channel. All right, Boxers, see you later.
Like and subscribe.